Hi, my name is Sean Olson. This is an introduction to the Detailer plugin that augments Wallworm. The Detailer plugin is for exporting detail props, foliage and billboards into the source game engine. It can export them through the VMF exporter, or it can create VBSP files. When you've installed Detailer, you'll have a new category under your Create tab, or your Create menu, called Wallworm. You'll get three new options with this plugin: Detail Prop, Detail Group, and Detail Type. These three objects represent the parts of a VBSP file in the source game engine. If you're not using source, you can still use the Detail Prop to create props in your scene. To create one, you click the button and just drag and slide on the screen. By default, it makes this flat plane that you can see here. If we go to the Modify panel, we'll have access to various parameters. For example, we can control the width and the height of this model. We can also change things such as the shape. We can make this a cross, which you can see here. Or we can create a try. And when you've turned on a try, you have access to some of these other options that change its shape. For example, the shape angle and the shape size. Now without a material, it's not very obvious as to what's going on here, but we'll go into that momentarily. We're going to return to this more shortly, but now we're going to go talk about the other types of objects we can create with Detailer. Detail Type is the large grouping object for your details that would be tied to a material in your scene. We create the base object, and we go to the Modify tab here, and we have some options. Now this density spinner, this controls how dense the props for this type are going to be in your scene. So if you want a lot of models scattered across your displacements or your scene, you give this a really high density. I'm going to use 1200 now for what we're demonstrating. And now we need to apply a material to this detail type. The material that's on the detail type would equate to the source engine detail VMT. Now we created a bitmap earlier in the sprite material, in the sprite card video, so we're going to use that bitmap. Open up our material editor and let's load that bitmap. Now we want to do a couple things. First, we want to tell it to use the mono channel for alpha, and we probably want to turn off pre-multiplied alpha right now for this. And we need to make a material, and we want this material to use this bitmap in both the diffuse slot and in the opacity slot. Now we want to name this bitmap. We're going to give it a path right there, and we're going to give this material, and that will be the material that goes into the map. This will control all of our detail sprites for this example. And to make this material ready for exporting into the game engine, we need to select our material and click an option. You have to have Wallworm installed for this, and choose Add WW to Selected Mats in Editor. You'll see that this object now has a bunch of new options. We're going to say that this is for model, and we want this to be a detail sprite, and we can turn on jitter and tree sway if you want, and those are dependent on your mods, and you can control those. And we can export this material into game with the export VMT and export VTFs, which you can find out more about in other videos and documentation. Now we want to assign this material to our object. By default, it's gray and max. To see the material in the scene, we need to turn on Show Shaded Materials. Again, this is the material we made in a previous video, and it's going to be our sprite sheet for these details in the scene. Our next thing here is to create the groups for this type. we can simply click this Add Group button and it will add one in the scene. And you'll notice it's all black. The hue value is representing the alpha value on the displacement for this group. If we change this, it changes. And what that means is at what point in the alpha blending of a displacement will the models in this group appear. And we can add an indefinite number of groups here. We're going to add a few groups. And we can change their alphas. We'll put this one at fully bright. This one at 66, and we'll bring this one up to 33. 27, that's good. Now notice when we go back to our detail type, we have all of the types listed here. If I select one of these, you'll see it flash in the scene. It lets you know which one that is. If I right click one of these, it will change the selection to that object over here. Also, we can name these. These groups should be named something similar to what you might make them in the scene. So in this case, I'm going to name them in an appropriate way. So I'll put ditch, just give them names that would apply to how they would be distributed on objects. So now, if I select my detail type, you'll see that it lists the names of the objects in a more meaningful manner. So you should name your objects how you want. Also, I should also point out that the name of this detail type is also important. We might want to rename this plants along ditch. Okay, we'll call it like that. Now we can go to each one of these here and create a new item, a new model. If I click here, it's going to create a new prop detail similar to this object. It's the same type, but it's actually starts out flat, and you'll see that it has the material that we applied to the main detail type. At this point, we can change its width and height. And here's where some of the other controls on here become important. In this material, everything is taking up 0.25% of the width and height. So we need to change the scale to represent that. So we go over here and type in 0.25, and now we have one of the models, or one of the sprite materials. And we can change this by changing the spinner here. And we can go up and down and find different ones. So we're going to start with the daisies. We're going to put that like that. We'll call this, I'm not sure if these are daisies, just flowers. Call this flower 1. And I'm going to shift drag this. And I'm going to create 3 of these. And I want to call this, this one to be flower 2, flower 3, and flower 4. And I want to offset these each by 0.25. And now you can see that I have all the flowers that are part of the top row of our type here. So those are all along in the ditch. But actually, I didn't really want all of these to be in there. That's fine. I actually want more of these grassy things in there. So that's fine. I'm gonna show you how these controls work. So we're gonna go to the next group here, and we're gonna add an item. And for this one, again, we want the U scale and V scale to be 0.25. And I'm going to use the second row down, so the grass here. We're going to make this one tall and a little bit wider. And we're going to shift drag this over 3 times. We're going to use all 3 of these. So now we have our 4 different grasses. Now, let's look here. Notice that both this group and this group only have 1 object each, because when I clicked the add item, I added 1, but then I copied these elsewhere. These ones are not tied to anything yet. These 3 and these 3. I also want to rename these guys grass. So now I can go over here and I can add existing ones to all of these. So actually for this one, this is where I want most of my flowers here. So I'm going to actually add existing detail, and I'm going to add this, and I'm going to add this, and add this. So along the top, we're going to have a little bit of grass, and we're going to have on the bottom a little bit of these flowers. We have flower 1, but I want to add these grasses to it. Now we can demonstrate how to preview what this might look like at this point. What we want to do here is create a displacement, a wallworm displacement in our scene. You can do that by opening up wallworm, going to level design tools, choose anvil, and we're going to create a displacement at the helper. Now the material here, I must point out, is from the game Dear Esther, and I'm going to use that for demonstrating this function. Robert Briscoe of Dear Esther was very instrumental in funding some of the tools here that you'll see. We're going to sculpt it up a little bit to create some contours. And we're just going to straight up pull this up like this and pull this side up a little bit, and we'll go down a little bit here. Okay. And now we're going to choose some paint some alpha in here. We're going to choose this, the ditch area, full. And we'll move this up a little bit here of this color and this to bring it into the transition a little bit. And now we need to tell our material that's here to use this detail type. And we can do that by opening up the material editor, and as long as you have a wallworm properties assigned to the material, you can do this. So we're going to open up this material and go to the blend material here and copy this material name, which we called this plants along ditch. Copy that, and we're going to paste that into the detail type here. Now, in order for us to scatter these objects across this scene, we need to open up another tool in Wallworm, the import VBSP file function. This is where you find these tools, and we're going to load this these detail types into this UI. And now that I have it loaded into this UI, I can scatter these objects across the scene by using this apply to scenes option. And there's other tools in here to force things, but I'm just going to click this. And it may take a minute. And notice nothing happened actually. And the reason that happened was because I did not give any of these enough of an amount to be scattered. And you'll see if I go into each of these props, I have to give them an amount, and right now their amount is very insignificant. So in this case, which is in the ditch, I want this flower here to be 0.15, and I want these to all have a higher amount, 0.2, 0.2, 0.2, and 0.2. And these guys down here, wherever they appear, they're also going to get a 0.2. And this controls the amount of that object in the scene. Alright, so now I've gone through and given them all amount, and I've also given them this upright setting. And I need to reload my UI, my VBSP tools, to get the new settings here. And now if I hit apply to details to scene, they're going to be applied on the displacement. And here we can see there's a bunch of grass that are down in the trenches and a lot more flowers up higher. And we have other controls on this. We can give them random scaling, etc. And so we'll delete all of these in the scene, and we'll go and give these all a bit of a random scaling. So I'm going to give this one a random scaling of 0.4, and I'm actually going to do that to all of these objects so they can all scale. So I'm going to select all of them and type in random scale 0.4, and now they'll all have that setting. I'll reload this and apply to the scene, and you'll see this time that there's some variation in the scales of all the objects up to 0.4. And we can force further offsets with this control out here, but we're not going to mess with that. What we are going to do is add some more of these details across here. So we're going to work with the alphas that would be a little bit more in this transition area, and then up at the top. And so let's go to this group again. This is the grassy slope, and for this one we're going to put flowers, and I guess I misnomered that. We'll just do flowers and some of these colorful bushes. So I want to reuse in this group a bunch of the flowers. I'm going to reuse these again. So, and I also want to add for this one the colorful bushes here. So again, we go back to the scale on this 0.25, 0.25. We're going to go down to on the U or on the V, so half, and there we go. And we want this to be higher and wider like that. And I'm going to make a couple of these. Alright, and we'll go back to here, and we need to make sure that these are all added to this tree here. So now one thing we're going to realize is the total amount of all of the parts that are part of this, which are these bushes and these flowers, are going to add up to more than one. So actually we're going to have to remove some things. So we're going to remove some of these flowers here, and that's flower 2. So we're gonna keep flower 1 and flower 4, or we're gonna remove flower 2 and flower 3. And let's go and change these to the different and now we have the 4 different models we have there. And we may actually want these to be bigger, so we're going to give that a bigger height, and we might make this one a little wider and taller, and this one as well. Keep that one smaller. And let's go and reload our BBS. We're going to delete the ones we already have out there, and we're going to reapply this on the scene. And again, these models are not pointed correctly because I forgot to put upright on them. But as you can see, they're all up higher up. Let's delete those and start over here. Let's give all of these the upright flag. Alright, so I'm going to reload and apply. And here we see that those bushes are now up further. They don't appear very much down there. They appear up further on here. Finally, on the last one, we're going to add all the pine trees up higher, up along this part. So we're going to add on this part, we'll add an item and choose upright. Again, 0.25 on these, and we're going to U offset by V offset by 0.75, and there's our tree number 1. We'll call this pine tree 1, and we're going to give this a random scale of 0.1. We'll give it a random scale of 0.2. We're going to give this an amount of 0.25, and we're going to copy this 3 times for the 3 trees that I have there and offset. So there's our 4 trees, and these are larger than those, so they should be larger up there. And we're going to go ahead and we need to make sure that all of these pine trees are part of this group. So we need to add the existing pine trees that we want up here. Delete all the ones in the scene right now and reload this and apply them again. And this time you'll notice that the pine trees are up at the top part. The other things are down, these purple bushes are down lower. Okay, a couple things. There is a feature in here that lets us preview what they will look like inside of the game. If we select one of these, and any of them that have rotate Z only or rotate will have this ability. If we click this look at preview, all of the props will then switch their rotation in the screen to always point at you, and with the Z only, they're only rotating in the Z, and so now we see them all looking face on as they would in the game. Now if your scene has thousands and thousands and thousands of these props and these details, this can get laggy. This is mainly meant for previewing purposes, and of course you can use it for rendering, but again, the more props in here, the slower this function is. So you can turn it off to make it go faster again. And there's more features in here that we can deal with, and I'm going to show you just briefly one of these others, and that is using actual models. And for this one, we're going to use along the ridge area along here, which is this group. So we're going to add a new item, and it defaulted to over here, this new item it made. And we're not going to switch anything about this at all. We're going to quickly create a rock in the scene. So to make this rock, to make this, I'm just going to be really brief. I'll hit F4 here so I can see. And normally you would probably actually already have built something. So a really quick way to do that is to make a cube and apply a spherify modifier to it. And then we'll put a noise modifier on it. We'll just use this right here. And what we're going to do is create a Wallworm model tool model out of this. So I'm going to open up Wallworm model tools, and I'm going to select this as a model. And for this, I want to change its name to Rock01. And now that I have that Wallworm model tool helper there that it represents this rock, I can then go back to this and choose add WWMT model. If I click that and choose here, it's going to create a representation of this. And now if I go back and I have to give it an amount, I'm going to give this a higher amount. I'm going to give this a 2. And random scale doesn't do anything with these kind of models. And I'm going to bring down the percentage of a couple of these flowers so that I have room for this rock here. So now that we've added that, we'll hit load from scene to reload the settings for this. And at that point we'll apply to scene, and you'll see now that we have the rocks scattered about our scene here at the right level, because we told it to scatter through that group that's only being applied along this alpha layer. And again, I can go back and turn on by choosing any one of these, the show facing, the look at preview, and you'll see that they're all facing me now. And I'll turn that off here. There are more controls, but I basically wanted to get you an idea of the general workflow of doing this. Once you have a detail type, you can actually select it and copy it if you want and call it my second type. And it is also reusing the same groups that we had over here, but I could add another group. And I could say that this group, let me select it, put it over here, and I would like this one to be in between almost. So in this case, if you were to represent it, it would be in there in the alpha range. So now this one has all of these, plus it has this group, and I can go back to this detail type and say that this has a density that's a lot higher, and then add new models just to this group. Could use any models that we like, this rock over here, or reuse these but have different parameters like taller grass or whatever. And then, or if we leave nothing, then that means no props will be populated at that alpha. And then we'll reload this, and you'll see that it has 2 props here, or 2 prop types, my second type and my first. And if we hit export VBSP here, we're going to get this menu, and I'm going to call this my demonstration.vbsp and hit save, and it's going to open up my text editor, and there is my VBSP. So I can use this directly in game and distribute the VMT and the VBSP file, and then these materials or these models will be populated with these rules on any map I want to use with these. Also, if I have this scene, I can actually export this scene directly with Wallworm's VMF exporter, and if I, in the exporter, use the correct VBSP name that I just saved and the VBSP or the detail material that I would export from here, then, or excuse me, at least the material, but I don't want the VBSP if I'm doing what I'm saying here. And if I do that, then this will just export directly with these exact sprites in these exact positions and sizes and scales. I will try to add more information in the future, but this video has already gone long over the time I had hoped to use for it here. But the main thing is to have shared with you the process by which we can populate a scene that goes into Source with the Detailer plugin. Again, my name is Sean Olson. You can learn more about me at seanolson.net. You can always get the latest Wallworm tools at wallworm.com, including this plugin, the Detailer plugin, and other plugins that I'll be working on in the future. Thank you, and have a good day.